This is part of Lake Victoria covered with that weed, the water hyacinth, hampering activity and business at the Kisumu port. And you'll not always find it here. It migrates with water currents. If it's not here, you'll find it on another part of the lake.
We are not just going to win the war by harvesting the water hyacinth, either manually, biologically, or mechanically. But we have to start by asking ourselves, what is it that is feeding the water hyacinth?
On this show, find out what's in plan for the revival of the potential of Lake Victoria, lessons from the past, and what it will take to make it a reality. 7 a.m. at Dunga Beach in Kisumu, and activity is building up. Fishermen are arriving after a night-long fishing expedition on the lake. But behind this deceiving vibrancy is a tale of a dwindling fishing industry.
Mimi ni mzaliwa wa hapa, tumenini mambo ya uvuvi kwa muda mwingi sana. Tumechukua kama kazi. Samaki imepungua sana, hasa wakati wa hii kwekwe imefanya sasa mapato imerudi chini kabisa. Kitambo hatukuwa tunafanya kazi sana. Ingekuwa kitu kama saa 8, saa 9 hivi tushawacha kazi kwa sababu tumepata mazao ambayo tupata samaki ambayo imeweza kututosha. Lakini ukikompea na saa hii hatupati kitu.
Mimi si mkazi wa Dunga lakini natoka past Nyamasaria. Hapa ni biashara tu ndio imenileta. Samaki ni kidogo kabisa. Kama omena ni kidogo. Sasa inalingana na hii hyacinth imetatiza mambo ya uvuaji wa samaki. Hyacinth ikiwa nyingi zinazuia bot kufanya kazi ya uvuvi. Inawazuia pengine hata zikiwa nyingi sasa haziendi. Sasa nyavu ikiweka ndani haitoi samaki.
And there are artisans here who depend on the economic activities supported by the lake, which besides fishing includes tourism. Dennis Otieno makes boats, specifically riding boats that are used for tourist activities. Because of the water hyacinth, the business has come down, meaning he no longer has customers ordering for the boats the way they used to do in the past.
Kama water hyacinth imekuja, imeshumbua watu kuingia kwa maji, sio rahisi. Ikikuja, hii biashara lazima itasimama. Hawezi endelea mbele, wateja iko kidogo.
Stephen Okumu, who was brought up in a fishing community, walks me through the changing face of the lake as he reflects on his childhood days. But first, he takes a moment to show me how the hyacinth floats and moves on the water.
Look at that one there. It moves very, very fast because it's something which is floating, and the leaves, it's like also helps it to move very fast because when the wind comes and pushes the leaves, and that makes it move very faster inside the water.
Fishermen, in the meantime, continue to arrive, but one can clearly notice whatever they've come back with is not enough to satisfy demand.
Compare it to the time that we used to fish, we used to get lots of fish. But today you can find fishermen, they go there fishing, and sometimes they are surrounded by water hyacinth. They can't fish because these fishermen, they fish all night. So they are passing lots of challenges because of water hyacinth. And you find that once they want to fish in a certain place and it is covered with water hyacinth, then they find it more difficult even to get their own fish, because there are some different types of fish which will not survive well where there is water hyacinth.
As I continue to interact with Stephen, I discover that he is quite knowledgeable about the origin of the hyacinth in Lake Victoria.
It was brought from southern part of America. It was brought just besides River Kagera. River Kagera is between Rwanda and Burundi. So these guys, they had a fish pond besides River Kagera, and River Kagera, it's an inlet. So there was a research point. It was something like a pond. and they took water hyacinth, and they dropped it inside the pond. So within some few time, like water hyacinth ilikuwa imejaa the fish pond, and some types of fish, it started to die. And now they took some of water hyacinth as they were removing it from the pond, and part of it was dropped in River Kagera. From the River Kagera to Lake Victoria, then it used to move around part of the lake, because you know Lake Victoria is being shared by 3 countries, that is Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, and it's so big. What you can see here, this is just a gulf. So you find that at the time it found itself into the gulf, our polluted water here, then it found the safest place to grow very fast.
Steve, whose training is not science but motor vehicle engineering, further sought to share what he knows as the factors that make the weed thrive more on the Kenyan side of the lake.
This side of Lake Victoria, there's a gulf. There's the Winam Gulf, and Lake Victoria is about 68,800 square kilometers. It's so huge, you know. It's a gulf which is very close to the city. So you find that we also have lots of inlets at the same time around the Gulf area. And the water, when you look at the water quality now, it's not really the way water should be, because it's so polluted. Inside the water, we have what we call the water currents. And we also have the breeze. It's just how the breeze flows inside the water. Like now, the waves is from the northern part of the Gulf towards the southern part of the Gulf. And maybe past midday, it might change the direction. It depends with the weather, you know. Now it's increasing because we have lots of water hyacinth. When it is not here around the Kisumu area, then it is now interfering with the people at the southern part of the Gulf. Like people are in South Nyanza, Kindu Bay, Homa Bay, around Nyakach area, towards Mbita. Yeah, when they are not in trouble, we are in trouble in the northern part of the Gulf.
Then how the locals call the weed?
It was named Ford because it was first seen in the year 1992, and that's 1992 there was a strong multi-party, which was known as, the strong multi-party, which was known as Ford. And during that time is the time that it was seen, so it was nicknamed to be Ford. And other people also locally, they call it Amosi. Amosi means high, because mostly it normally visits people from one beach to another beach. It means that you can laugh another community. Yeah, you never know that it's also coming to your side to say hi. Yeah, but when it comes to say hi, then you guys is in trouble.
Nevertheless, the invasive weed has some positives. Steve uses it for weaving.
Sasa zinaachwa, zinakaukwa kwa siku 3. Kisha kauka vizuri, sasa naichukua moja moja, alafu natengeneza nayo rope.
These ropes are some of the end products after cutting, drying, and treating the hyacinth.
Okay, let me show you some of my products, the end products made out of water hyacinth.
Let's move to another byproduct of the hyacinth. And still on Dunga Beach, a strategic entrepreneur is making biogas from the plant.
We harvest water hyacinth manually, then we take it to the system. The first process is shredding, where we shred it twice to remove the air elements. Then after that, we feed into the system through the inlets, which are the pipes entering the system. So we are producing, we want to provide the women who are doing the deep frying of the fish in the beach so that they stop using firewood. So that one, our main aim is to stop them using firewood, that is, which is going to conservation of our forests. Yeah, that's the main aim. Then the second thing, by removing water hyacinth from the lake, we're just trying to make the lake be accessible, because the water hyacinth make it inaccessible.
What if it's eradicated completely and then you have raw material? Your business ends.
Oh, first of all, our system does not depend on water hyacinth alone. We can get other feedstock like market waste, food waste, which are always available. If you go to any market, you can't lack market waste.
All said and done, we sought to find out what the locals know about the bigger picture and the renewed efforts to eradicate the weed.
They tried it biologically. They also tried to control it mechanically, and they've also used the manual way of controlling water hyacinth. Youths were being paid and removing water hyacinth. Now they have introduced another machine along the pier. There's a machine there, and they talked of this machine. I've heard of it. I've just seen it in the internet, and they were saying that it's still small, and they need to come with another bigger one, the hyacinth. But I don't know if it will really cover 68,868 kilometers, or the square kilometers of Lake Victoria, within some few months that they are talking of.
We are expecting 3 big machines for harvesting water hyacinth in the next 3 months so that work can start in earnest. We know that in Uganda they were facing the same problem, and they have been able to rid their side of the lake out of water hyacinth. And now it is time for Kenya. You also know that the company that is coming to help us sort out this issue is from Uganda. It's called the Mango Tree Group.
Later in the afternoon, we take a boat ride, and today is one of those days when the hyacinth has migrated from Dunga Beach, and Steve is our tour guide.
I'm most surprised because yesterday here it was full of water hyacinth. Actually, we wanted to come to this place here with our visitors, but we couldn't pass by the first hotel, the first restaurant that is over there.
But here we reach a dead end. We intended to reach the pier, the other side of the lake, but see what we have encountered. On that note, we take a short break. When we return, why eradication of water hyacinth on Lake Victoria requires a regional approach. Another key stakeholder in the revival of Lake Victoria is the Lake Victoria Basin Commission, whose executive secretary is Dr. Ali Said Matano.
We take care of water resources, sustainable management and development of water resources within the Lake Victoria Basin. We are responsible for sustainable forestry management. We are responsible for environmental conservation. We are responsible for promoting industrial development within the Lake Victoria Basin. We are responsible for promoting safety of navigation within the Lake Victoria Basin.
But why is Kenya most affected?
Kenya has 6% of the lake, 6%, about 4,000 hectares of the lake. So it's quite, if you take, of course, 8,000 and you get, 6%, you'll see it's quite a small portion of the lake. But unfortunately, that small part of the lake has a very big catchment area. Kenya has a catchment area totaling to 22% of the total catchment area, which is 183,000 square kilometers. So Kenya has 22%, in fact, second to Tanzania. Tanzania has 51% of the lake, but with 44% of the total catchment area. So Kenya is actually half of Tanzania's catchment area. But most importantly, in the Kenyan catchment area, you find that the 22% of that catchment area has a population of 15 million. And let me run it between Kenya and Tanzania so that the picture is clear. Kenya has 6% of the lake. Tanzania has 51% of the lake. Tanzania has a population of 7.5 million people in the catchment area. Kenya has 15 million people, impacting on 6%. Now, the productivity of the Kenyan part of the catchment area is so huge because you have fertile soils, very aggressive socioeconomic activity. Tanzania's activities is not much, in the 44%. Now, if you look at the topography, because erosion is a function of topography, the Kenyan side is hilly. Kericho, Kisii, Nandi Hills, all those you hear hill. You know, the topography is quite steep, and therefore the erosion, the part of degradation is very high. Tanzanian part is almost flat. Now, the last stroke is that Kenya has actually 8 major river basins. Talk of Yala, talk of Nzoia, talk of Gucha, talk of Sondu, talk of Mara. All of them are from Kenya. Tanzania has only maybe about 3 or 4 major rivers that you can see. So you can see the Kenyan part of the lake, the 6%, is heavily impacted by the population, by the socioeconomic activities, and by the topography. And that's why there is a lot of sediment and there are so many challenges on that small portion of the lake.
According to Dr. Matano, it will take more than just harvesting the hyacinth to deal with the problem.
They're not just going to win the war by harvesting the water hyacinth, either manually, biologically, or mechanically. But we have to start by asking ourselves, what is it that is feeding the water hyacinth? It is the source from the upper catchment areas. You know, even the sedimentation that we are initiating now in the lake, and we are very happy that, you know, that's a process that is going to start soon. It must be complemented by us promoting proper and sustainable land management in the upper catchment area so that we can cut off the amount of, you know, nutrient-loaded soils. We don't need soils in Kisumu. We don't use soil to plant fish. We need soil in Kericho to grow tea. We need it to grow maize. We need it, in Trans Nzoia to grow. We don't need it in Kisumu.
Apart from farming activities, industrial effluent is yet another big contributor to the fertilization of the hyacinth.
Industrial effluent is a big challenge, and not just industrial effluent, Alex. Let's also add urban effluents, including sewer, raw sewer getting into the lake. Because when you look at the lake, there are 2 things you'll see, especially if you are flying over Winam Gulf. You'll see the water hyacinth in plenty, and if the water hyacinth is not there, you'll see something green. You have seen those green masses. Those are algal blooms. And then you'll see sediment because the lake will be looking red. So those are the 2-3 things we must fight with. We must fight with the water hyacinth. We must fight with the algal blooms. We must fight with the sedimentation. Now, sedimentation is the catchment areas. Now, the algal blooms is because of release of raw sewer into the lake. Anytime you see those, it means somebody is releasing raw sewer into the lake. Now you have asked what we should do. We have very good legislation. And in fact, even at the East African community level, through the Lake Victoria Basin, we have developed regional effluent, urban and domestic effluent standard for the region, and they were adopted by our Council of Ministers to regulate what we release in the lake. But now, because we don't implement, they have been given to the government. And I'm happy to announce that Kenya has already started, adopting those standards under the NEMA. So legislation is there. What we need to do, Alex, is to enforcement. We ensure that there is no, and I believe we can actually be able to do that. The goodwill is there. And as long as people know the dangers of those sewer, because for example, if you tell a fisherman, you are not getting this fish because somebody is releasing these people, there will be an outcry. And we'll ensure that enforcement is really done. Because the issue is enforcement, Alex.
The Kisumu Deputy Governor, Dr. Matthew Owili, is the chair of the committee that is in charge of the removal of the hyacinth at the Lake Victoria Economic Block.
You realize that the economy of Kisumu, then, when Kisumu was vibrant, was dependent on the Kenya railways then, and of course the ports and harbors. Now, with the collapse of the East African community and the collapse of the Kenya Railways as we knew it then, it meant that the port of Kisumu, the activities and everything had to come to a halt. And it has been like this for quite some time. Very little activity, if any. But now, with the coming of county governments, we decided as a county that for us to revive the economy of Kisumu, we have to rethink our strategy in terms of the resource, the biggest actually that we have as a county, that is Lake Victoria. And that dream of Kisumu County, that dream was now picked by the Lake Region Economic Block. So now, Alex, the issue of the revival of maritime transport and trade is one of the flagship projects of the Lake Region Economic Block that, as you know, comprises 14 counties, And out of the 14, 5 counties actually share this resource. We have Busia, sharing this resource. We have Siaya sharing the lake resource. We have Kisumu, we have Homa Bay, and we have Migori. We call them the riparian counties.
The revival of maritime transport on the lake may remain a pipe dream should this weed persist.
Tofauti kwanza iliyopo kati ya kutoka hapa na Kisumu na kwenda Jinja, tofauti kubwa kwanza kabisa tunakutana na challenge za hizi water hyacinth. Haya magumaji unayoona hapa tunakutana nayo katika hii bei ya hapa Kisumu, lakini tunapokuwa tumetoka nje kule tunakuta hatukutani na gugumaji lolote, ila challenge kubwa tunayokutana nayo tunakutana na wavuvi. Wavuvi wa samaki wanakuwa ni wengi sana, wanaendelea na kazi zao usiku na mchana.
Lake Victoria is an important lake for us, and all efforts must be put together. Everybody must come up as a stakeholder and let us address the issues. The efforts that are being done to revive, our ports in Kisumu, navigation in the lake, I think they are very positive, because this is what we had. And then we need to start ourselves, asking ourselves, where did the rain start hitting us? We look forward to having the Kisumu port rehabilitated so that our products can move across the lake. We look forward to SGR getting into Kisumu so that products can go to East Africa. We have a huge market of over 150 people in East Africa.
Kuna mizigo inabebwa kutoka hapa kwenda Mwanza, Tanzania, mafuta ya kula, cooking oil, sabuni, books, vitu kama sweets, watu tunatransport sana vitu hivyo kwa wingi.
Na kutoka Uganda kuja hapa?
Kutoka Uganda kuja hapa mara nyingi sana hakuna biashara. Hakuna biashara.
So ni one way?
Ni one way.
Mary urudi bure?
Tunakuja tupu. Mara nyingi tunakuja tupu. Sema mara moja meli hii huwa tunakuja hapa kuchukua magari. Kwa sababu kule Mwanza kuna sehemu inaitwa Geita Gold Mine. Sasa kule kuna magari yanatoka Amerika, yale magari makubwa ya mgodini, mitambo makubwa, huwa tunakuja tunapakia hapa tunapeleka Mwanza. Lakini kutoka Uganda kuja hapa hakuna biashara.
Observers emphasize that harvesting alone is not the solution to the eradication of the notorious weed. What happens upstream matters a lot. A regional approach is required and laws must be enforced. Otherwise, more and more funds will continue to be sunk into hyacinth eradication projects that yield no result.